What up, folks? This is Pop Culture. I'm Alex Pop. If you're subscribed, you may have seen my most recent Shotgun review with my friend Alex Spears, in which we talked about the new John Green adaptation, Paper Towns. See, I was a little flustered after viewing this movie due to the really personal notes it hit with me, so I had a more difficult time than usual finding the words to say right away, which I have actually found I'm getting better at. But now that I've had more time to get my thoughts together, I really want to talk seriously about Paper Towns, because I feel that this movie has something wise and mature to say about people, love, and relationships. A sort of something that all too few romance movies nowadays try to get across to their audience. Paper Towns is about a high schooler named Quentin, who is convinced that he has been madly in love with his old friend Margot Roth Spiegelman since the day she moved in next door when they were young children. But as high school began, she started hanging around with more popular students, and they slowly drifted apart. And all the fantasies that Quentin had had about the two of them began to fade away. But then one night, in his last weeks of high school, Margot shows up at his bedroom window and talks him into being her getaway driver during a night of vengeance on her friends, whom she feels have betrayed her. After doing mischievous things like removing her ex-boyfriend's eyebrows or covering someone's car in saran wrap, Quentin and Margot spend the rest of the evening in an office building, looking down at the suburban town. She explains her views of the town and its inhabitants, while Quentin tells her where he wants to be in his upcoming years. The night re-sparks Quentin's effervescent love for Margot, and he goes home looking forward to spending more time with her. But he wakes up the next day to find that she's missing. He tries to investigate, and eventually finds these clues to where she might be that are apparently directed at him. He comes to the conclusion that she must be in Agloe, New York, a paper town, that is, a fake town listed on a map. So after negotiating with his friends about the tight schedule they'd be on, they join him to venture out and find Margot, aiming to be back in time for the end of the year prom. But as Quentin's journey unfolds, he starts to see less of the girl that he always supposed he knew Margot to be, and it leads to very surprising results. Let me start by saying that this movie is a sheer delight. Very rarely did a minute go by where I wasn't entertained. All of the supporting characters are a joy to have along for the ride. There isn't one where you'd think, okay, time to pull over and let him hitchhike. And all of them are given just enough development and screen time to prosper. The chemistry with Quentin and his two friends Ben and Radar is sharp, comedic, and very believable. One scene that illustrates how the three of them connect is when they're trying to gain confidence before entering a hole in the wall of an abandoned store. Still half drunk from the party he just left, Ben starts muttering the lyrics to the Pokemon theme song, and Quentin and Radar enthusiastically join in while slowly entering the hole. You can easily buy that these three have been longtime buddies. For a cast with mostly limited previous roles, Nat Wolff, Austin Abrams, and Justice Smith are excellent as this trio of friends. But the one who steals the show is Halston Sage. She plays Margot's best friend Lacey, who becomes concerned about their friendship after what she pulled at her house on revenge night. So she joins Quentin, Radar, and Ben on their road trip, and they learn more about her and how she wants people to see beyond her past affliction with an STD. Her story arc adds to the setup of the film's ultimate message about seeing people for who they really are. And her scenes with Ben are splendid. Ben's the nerdy and frisky kid who's not very subtle about his crush on Lacey. But it's not the cliche where the girl starts out despising the guy and then later lets down her guard after she was forced to spend more time with him. Instead, she's more lenient toward him, and her reactions to his ridiculous antics are very legitimate. Unfortunately, though, Lacey's story arc with Margot is never really completed, but I'll be getting to that more in my spoiler review for the movie. The road trip itself is filled with situational humor, relying primarily on our characters thinking that they have less time than they really do. But it does also balance a number of warm character moments in there as well. One of my favorite sequences in the movie is when they're pulled over on the highway at night, and they each dwell on their amorous feelings. Radar is out in the woods with his girlfriend Angela, making jokes about his abnormally extensive collection of black Santas. Ben expresses to Lacey how he's gotten over his physical attraction toward her, and has now come to see her as cool. That's mostly all he says, but it fits his character. And Quentin just sits alone in his van thinking back on memories of Margot, presumably fearing the possibility of failing to find her. The whole scene is simple, yet it still packs an uncommonly emotional punch. I love the soundtrack too. It's the same kind of soundtrack that they're doing for many other coming-of-age movies or teen romance movies, and I really enjoy the formula that they're using. The score is comprised of a lot of electric guitar, and there are several upbeat tunes. I went home the night I saw the movie and just googled the soundtrack and listened to the tracks on YouTube. My personal favorite is To the Top by Twin Shadows. Now, the reason I wanted to speak seriously about this movie to you, the viewer, is because I think the movie deserves to be rewarded. Why? Because it does something that you won't see cliché-ridden jokes like the Endless Love remake do. It takes a risk. It knows who its audience is and what its audience wants to see. Either a love that lasts after the death of one or both of our leads, or a romantic happily ever after. And to an extent, I'm a member of this audience, being somewhat of a sap for sappy. So like most people, at least those who haven't read the book, I went into this movie expecting an enjoyable, pleasant, occasionally funny, yet simple to the point romance/road trip movie. And as you can probably tell, that's what I got for the most part. That is until the final 10 minutes. Just when you think you know exactly what the payoff is going to be, the movie takes a very unexpected turnaround formula. Without giving anything away, it makes a realistic point that people aren't always what they seem, and even that a relationship with another may not be what it seems. Like I said before, the movie struck a lot of chords with me, and I got really choked up at the ending. The reason is that earlier this year, I had an experience fairly similar to Quentin's. I'll talk more about that in my spoiler review. But leaving my personal experiences out of account, I still feel that Paper Towns delivers a strong, sensible, and bittersweet message that will hopefully make young adults more knowledgeable of the hardships that life can sometimes bring. At a time when teens can be impressionable and we're getting movies that could potentially screw somebody up, and I'm talking to you, it's refreshing to see screenwriters step forward and try to do something different. And for that, I applaud screenwriters Scott Neustadter and Michael H. Weber. This movie exceeds the high standards that they set with The Fault in Our Stars, 500 Days of Summer, and The Spectacular Now. And now I'm more excited than ever to see what they do with the film adaptation of The Disaster Artist. In the end, Paper Towns is a funny, delightful, unpredictable, and heartfelt dramedy with endearing characters, witty dialogue, and an involving message. It's one of my favorite films of the year. I reward it with an A. Guys, if you haven't yet, go see this movie before Mission Impossible Rogue Nation hits theaters this weekend and empties everyone's wallets. Show Hollywood that we want to have more movies like this. Thank you for watching, and let me know what you thought of Paper Town. Did you love it, hate it, or are you more indifferent to it like most of the critics? Whatever it be, leave it in the comments. And stick around for my spoiler review, where I'll be getting deeper into the movie's themes and how I related to them. And also, let me know what you thought of my review as a whole, because I may do more of these pre-written videos in the future. This is Pop Culture. I'm Alex Pop. Catch you later.